I spent the weekend at the Front Row Card Show in Portland, Oregon with VeeFriends. Let's talk about it. So I drove up to Portland on Friday and met up with Braden Corso, and we kind of just walked through what the next 2 days are going to look like. Products we're going to have, like how to onboard different people. Saturday morning, we got all the product over and set up the entire booth. Day one was really cool to hear from all three of us our different approaches of how we explain the IP and the different parts of it. Because the booth is small enough that we could overhear each other, I think each of us kind of picked our favorite parts, how somebody described something, how to bring in a family, how to draw on the kids. We also got lucky on day 2 of the show, we got to be part of the hobby hunt, which is something that Front Row Card Show does. A couple of the tables get a little sign, and then the kids get a card where they collect stickers. So the tables have stickers and when they collect, I think it was 6 stickers, then they can go back up to the front and they get to pick out a pack that they get to rip. It was really cool to see the different types of people coming up and like how different your conversations are going to go. I'm a mom and a former preschool teacher, so I know that social emotional learning is a big part of parents when they have younger kids. Something that instantly drew them in. When we talked about the characters, that it's kind of like a Pokemon meets Marvel meets Sesame Street, but all the different characters have social emotional traits. That was something that their eyes just lit up and they're like, that's what I need. As a parent, you want your kid to be patient and to be thoughtful and to be kind to others. So bringing up these characters and that there's a whole universe that teaches you good human skills, definitely drew them in. A really fun thing we did too was we had some sticker packs that we handed out, but we also put out Chrome cards and we let people pick their first VeeFriend. So they could look through the binder or just look at some of the cards that we just had out at the table and pick the trait or character they wanted to. Some conversations were really short, just like where you just kind of shortly tell them what it is if they had heard about it, and they kind of just go on their merry way. Some conversations are like 2 to 5 minutes, but then we also had people who would stick around for like 10, 20 minutes and just really wanted to know all about it. So we went deep dive into physical and digital collectibles, where it started, where it's going, the creator, and all the way to them then buying product. I think that's always the biggest one when somebody really wants to know about it and really wants to dive in and take the time, moving them all the way to wanting to also purchase something because they understand it and they believe in it now too. I think that was really cool moments too. There were some people who knew Gary but didn't know he had VeeFriends, so that's always a cool conversation of like what he has been building the last 5 years. One person came up, knew about VeeFriends. They had originally minted one of the Series 1 NFTs, but had sold at the height of NFTs. Good for them, because they probably made a lot of money. But then he looked at all the stuff. He didn't know that Series 2 ever was a thing. He had never heard of any of the collectibles. And after us talking for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes about all the different things that have been happening in the last 5 years, his comment was, maybe I should have held on to it. And that's a cool thing to hear, you know, like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy for the person. If they've sold any NFT at the height, they probably made a lot of money. But just hearing, like, seeing them, like, what has been building in that time since they sold, and, like, realizing, like, maybe that was a project I should have held on to, was a cool thing. I mean, we told them too, like, you can always get back in. But those are, like those cool moments that you kind of get to experience at those shows. We also had one mom, she looked at the different characters and asked if there's a character for a more sensitive child. So people really resonating with an IP that's focused on social emotional traits and having a child that maybe struggles with certain things in life, feeling like this could help their child. So there were some really, really cool conversations happening with parents. And some of those surprising things that I really loved seeing is there was quite a few people. We had a couple of slabs out from Series 1, from Topps Chrome, from Series 2. And as people were looking at them, they were actually very interested in the Series 1 drawings. We had a binder with a bunch of Topps Chrome cards, and we would show them on the back all the original drawings. And they were actually really, really into it, which is funny because so many people sometimes kind of make fun of it, of like how they're just doodles that Gary drew, but people really connected with this art. And it might be part of that in this AI era that we are now in, like seeing something clearly hand-drawn almost draws people in more these days, which was really interesting for us to see. We also had one person who knew about Gary but didn't really know about VeeFriends yet, buy one of the blaster packs and ripped it at home and had a sketch card in it. It's those little moments that if you don't draw them in, because people will walk past a table and look interested but don't really want to say something, but if you approach them, if they walk by and you at least see them like looking at it, so you see there's some interest, and just ask like, have you heard of VeeFriends? And then they'll be usually like, no, tell me about it. So you have to definitely be outgoing and just approach people, which I'm more naturally an introvert, but when I get to talk about VeeFriends, I'm definitely an extrovert. I think it's important to at these shows too, to know who's in front of you. For example, when it comes to a family, I will bring up more the traits like patience and kindness and gratitude, because that's something a lot of young kids are struggling with. Versus when I talk to adults or people in their 20s and 30s, I would bring up like some of the characters like Common Sense Cow, because we all know common sense is a little lost these days. And people just, they understand it, they get it. They see it as not just a kid's brand, but like these social emotional traits. There's some that kids struggle with, and then there's some that adults struggle with and still have to learn. So it was really cool to have these in-depth conversation with some people. Like I said, like for some people it was like 30-second interaction and then they were gone. And for others it's like 20 minutes, and some came back the next day and just wanted to learn more about it. So that was really cool to see the different people being interested in it, and not one person saw it as something negative. Everybody who started learning about it was really interested in it, especially that there's so many different parts of, if there's merch and there's cards and there's cartoons and a children's book and then there's comics. So it was really fun to see the gamut of that there is something for everybody. Big shout out to Front Row Card Show. Really great people, especially the Hobby Hunt for the kids. It's definitely a family, kids-centric card show, and especially Portland is a very family-friendly city, so we had a ton of families at the show. At the same time, as the card show was going on, there was also a dance competition, so there was just like a bunch of families there. Also, the show is very mixed between, I would almost say like a third is sports card, another third is TCGs, and another third is comics. So I feel like VeeFriends fit right in there. Even though it is definitely one of the smaller card shows that VeeFriends goes to, I think those in-person card shows are super important. The type of onboarding you can do with a person who just walks by is just so different. There are people who just walk by and kind of look, but if you then ask them like, have you heard about VeeFriends? They're usually interested and want to talk about it. They actually come to these card shows to learn about the new IPs and to learn about the new trading cards and TCGs that are out into the world. So I think they are super important to onboard in depth. If there's ever a card show in your area, definitely check them out, no matter how small it is. I think especially the small ones are kind of cool to support, because even the big shows now, like a Comic-Con or like a National, started out small, like a small show. So you don't know where these shows are growing to, and the more you support them, the more they're gonna grow and have a chance to. I had a great time, I had a great experience. I now definitely have my elevator pitch down. So I had a ton of fun. Again, thank you VeeFriends for letting me be part of it for the weekend and just experiencing it from the other side. Don't get me wrong, at the end of the day, my feet hurt because you're standing all day talking to people. It was definitely a cool experience to see the behind the scenes of it. But thank you, Front Row Card Show, for the amazing hospitality. We had a great time. And as VeeFriends says, keep collecting and keep connecting.